Caesar, the crowd pleaser. If you need to pick me up, ladies, we gon' change your demeanor. Caesar, the crowd pleaser. We gon' do a little dance, we gon' make the naysayers believe us. Hey girl, had a long day, you tired from work. Throw me some dollars and I remove my shirt. You can touch me too, these are the perks. Free yourself, lose your mind and go berserk, and go berserk, and go berserk, and go berserk.
Make way for the bad guy.
What is up, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of Crowd Pleaser, the podcast that brings you the inside scoop on what it takes to be a male entertainer in today's age. I'm your host, Caesar the Crowd Pleaser, and this week is episode 59, and we're going to be going a little deep and personal here and talk about being driven. It is something that has been recently brought to my attention and asked about, so I figured why not share that information with you all, and I hope you enjoy it and get something out of it. But first things first, I want to go ahead and talk about our Patreon. That is patreon.com/crowdpleaser. That's where you can sign up to give back a little something to the show financially, which helps me continue to make all the content that you know and love, as well as awarding you some neat perks like behind the scenes footage, extra physical print, and things like that. So definitely check it out. Any small amount or large amount goes a long way and is greatly appreciated. So yeah, if you guys feel the need or want to do it, then by all means, it is extremely appreciated yet again. Every week on the show, I like to call out a special patron, and this week our favorite patron is Misty Hicks. You rock. Thank you so much for all the support. You are awesome, and I am flattered and honored that you deem me worthy. Next up is LeBear Dallas. This is my home office where I operate 5 nights a week, Wednesday to Sunday nights, 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. And yeah, come out, see the show, talk to the guys, hang out, say hi to me, let me know what's going on, get you a little bit of unlicensed therapy going on, and yeah. And lastly, I'm going to go ahead and shamelessly plug my Twitch, which is twitch.tv/Jedi_EJ. This is where you can catch me streaming live. That's right, live. So you guys can interact with me as I'm goofing off online and whatnot. So definitely check it out. I stream every Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday mornings. All right, guys, that is everything. So let's dive right into it. So like I said, recently it was I was pulled aside and asked what made me so driven, like so motivated to do things time and time again. Like I don't stop. Often you hear people say that just knowing me or seeing how productive I am makes them tired, which I take that as a huge compliment. And I really never gave it too much thought up until I was approached about it. And we had a pretty good, 25 to 35 minute conversation about it. And so I felt like it might have been a decent snippet of knowledge to share with you all, and thus why we are here. So starting at the very beginning, what is being driven mean? So being driven is a level of motivation towards what you desire or what you want to accomplish, or simply what tasks you have to complete. I think it is like it's the next step beyond having to do something, if that can explain it. Being driven is just a extreme passion, but also a not only to do something or that you want to do it, but A, do it, actually physically do it, and B, do it well. I think that is one of the things that people sometimes confuse with certain levels of motivation or doing something. There's plenty of ways to get stuff done kind of mediocre in a mediocre fashion, and you are getting things done, but that might not necessarily be classified as being driven because of the fact that like you're kind of half-stepping it. Like you do so much better. People that are driven, excuse me, some good old caffeine to moisten up the old gullet. So being driven means that you attack things that you want to accomplish. You or even things you don't like. You have a pride in oneself, which I'll get to in later on, to just get things done and achieve your goals. And it is tough. It is tough in today's age to be that way if you do not motivate yourself and train yourself to do that, because there's so many distractions. There's so many things that people are throwing at you. It's like, oh, I'd like to do that. Oh, that's really neat. But like, there's so much groundwork that is involved, and it's very easy to get caught up in things and kind of spread yourself out too thin. But the people that are driven, the clicking that switch, so to speak, or pulling that lever to where you take yourself to the next level of achievement, that is what being driven is, and that is what leads you to a certain level of success. Not all success, and I'll explain that in a little bit as well. So to continue this, as you just heard me elaborate on it, I sometimes feel like being driven or being motivated is more than just an exercise, but rather a way of life. Reason being is that the more you do something, the easier it becomes. And the more you do something and the easier it becomes, the more of habit it becomes. And then thus the higher the chance of it becoming your default state of being. So for example of this, what I mean by using as an exercise is, let's say someone doesn't do very well at work. They just kind of meander about, and then when they're at home, they're kind of lazy. But then when they go to the gym, they throw down. Like when they're in the gym, they are a completely different person. They push themselves to the limit, right? That's being driven in the gym. Problem is that they're driven for just that specific amount of time and in that specific task. So there is a chance that motivation may or may not cross over to the other things they do in life. Why? Because they haven't ingrained that into their being as a default standard. You see this a lot with hobbies and things like that, where people have a natural state of being in one way, and then whenever they do something specific that they enjoy or they have a passion in, they all of a sudden become energetic and embodied and this and that. And sometimes, actually, believe it or not, it could be even better than that if they had a little more bleed over from the rest of their life. So for example, if you are used to operating at 40%, and then when your passion hits, you double that, well, you're still only operating at 80%. Versus if you're used to going 100, then you hit your passion, and then, I mean, you could still only do 100, but for the sake of argument purposes, let's say now you could do 120% when you hit your passion. And that's why I stress it being a way of life. One of the initial thoughts that or the moments I had to go into think tank when I was asked this question was like, what does make me so motivated? And honestly, it's just the fact that I've been doing it for all my life, that it's my default setting. It's the way I operate as a standard. That's why you often hear me say it's one of my greatest strengths and one of my greatest curses, because of the fact that I know there is nothing I can do. Even if it's something I don't want to do, I still feel like it has my name attached to it as something I did, so I want to accomplish it to the best of my ability. And thus, it is a way of life for me. Much like you hear the stonecutters, they have a small little thing that I think is actually really neat, but in their meetings, they do not cut any corners. They walk. So for example, around a table or a rug, typically people would just step over the corner, etc., or go around literally in a circle around a square table. Well, apparently during their meetings, they do not do that. They actually make the corners, make the sharp turns. And thus it's just a small exercise in practicing the fact that they do not cut corners, pun intended. And so I like that. I feel like that is the kind of thing. If you put your best foot forward in everything you do, then eventually there'll be a point in time where you do that naturally and you won't have to make a conscious effort. Or the few times that you will have to make the conscious effort, like, man, I really don't want to do this, you'll realize that you won't have to push yourself nearly as difficult as you should have been the other way around, i.e. you were starting at 50%. And I do see this. I see this a lot. There are plenty of times where there are things that I do not want to do, but I'm asked to do them, or I know I must do them. And so I make sure I get it done. And sometimes I catch myself, you know what I mean? it's little things. If I can go back to small little exercises, like for example, it is very easy. I don't know about you guys, but I think sometimes it's very easy that if I, for example, throw a gum out, right? I go to spit gum out and it hits the edge of the trash can and fall, or a piece of paper. There you go. That's a big one. You throw a piece of paper, it misses the trash can, right? It's very easy to just walk away like, yeah, it's near the garbage can, whatever. But I make it a point to stop what I'm doing, go back, pick it up, and make sure it makes it in the garbage. If I am throwing clothes in the hamper or something like that and a sock misses and falls, I really go grab it and throw it in the hamper. It's not to say I don't leave things undone. If there's one thing that I fight with all the time is a lack of time. And so I have to learn that sometimes you can't leave things finished. But if I do leave something unfinished, I make sure I make a closing date or a hard time to come back to it and get the job done, because leaving things unfinished is just bad habit. I teach this with my choreography as well as my aerial students, to always finish the movements, and they are not done until they come back to the ground nice and safely. And it's the same thing with everything else in life. And so little exercises like that, or, if you spill some water on the counter, it's too easy. It's water, it's fine, and you walk away. But I go grab a rag and dry up the countertop. Little things like this that sometimes I have to remind myself to do, like, Caesar, stop, you know better. But it really does make a difference, and I see it when I am editing, when I am working on choreography, when I am doing something. It is a little too easy to just shrug and call it a day, but that extra little effort is what's going to separate, what makes you above average to the top 5% of something. And it's those little things that you see will make a big outcome. I've seen that with my music editing, where someone might be like, yeah, that sounds great. And I almost want to walk away from it because I've been working on it for 30 minutes. But then I go and adjust it one beat, or place a certain little sound effect, or adjust the blend. And all of a sudden they're like, wow, that does sound way better. And it's just that little bit of extra effort that makes it go. So to start off, right, you have to start somewhere, and then slowly but surely you allow this to creep over to the rest of your life, right? Well, the starting point is that you have to want it. I know it sounds simple, but it is true. It is a motivator. You can't expect yourself to want to do something and find the motivation to do it if it's not something you want to do. What I mean by this, you can be motivated to do something, or you can have to do something but not enjoy it or not want to do it. For example, dieting. I will not lie, I like food, believe it or not. I like food quite a bit. I like to eat. I am Latin. I was raised on phenomenal Caribbean food, but I do know that I have to diet to maintain my body. So there is something that I do, and I do strongly, but I don't want it. If you are starting off to build this level of driven or drive to accomplish things, the first thing you have to do is have to want to do it. That is what's going to make the difference and lead you towards a better life or a better lifestyle, or make this a habit. So it is very difficult to be like, oh, I want to do this, and try to be very motivated on it and give it your all if it is something that your heart's not in. I know it sounds really simple, but it is something that is very important, and something that people tend to forget or just not realize, because now you're not only fighting an uphill battle, but you're fighting an uphill battle wearing ski boots in the snow. So yeah. So the next aspect of becoming a more driven human being is that you have to know your self-worth. And this is important for several reasons. The first off is the fact that knowing your self-worth increases your confidence. Knowing that you are worth and capable of whatever you are trying to sell or accomplish is extremely important towards changing your mindset. What this means is, like, for example, I recently started streaming live on twitch.tv, like I mentioned earlier. And I have to understand that I have to have the confidence in myself and know that I am worth watching. I have the entertainment value and at least some level of skill, even though other times I feel like I don't, to be something that people want to watch. And so if you don't have that self-worth or knowing that you are capable of something, then you are defeating yourself before you even take your first step. Similar, like let me go back to, starting your own business, being a photographer, or getting into shape. You have to understand that you are worth it to yourself, that you can have the body that you want, that you are worth looking the way you want, having people look at you the way you want to look at yourself. And so, and then once again, when you start your own business, like one of the things that I ran into when I first started marketing myself is I would always undervalue myself. I would be like, I'd be too real, so to speak, and be like, yeah, this is what I think. And I was undercharging for my services. And the fact of the matter is that I know the quality of product I put forth, regardless of what it is. I know I'm going to do my best. And I know it will always be above average, because that's the only thing I will settle for. I won't settle for average or subpar. And so having that allowed me to make more adjustable rates, so I was fair to both parties, whoever was paying for my services or my product, as well as to myself earning enough. And so same thing, I go back to Twitch, and it's very, very aggressive and intimidating to throw yourself out there, and even an amateur level or internet level TV, but you are putting yourself out there for the masses to evaluate you and view. And if you lack the confidence in yourself, they would show, and thus who's going to watch that? You know what I mean? Like, some people might be able to relate, but the majority of people want to see you for who you are and how you are. And the only way that comes out is when you have the confidence and knowing your self-worth and being okay with presenting that version of you out there. And so it is extremely important to generate that change in view, and they are self-perpetuating. So once you have your view of yourself, where you value yourself and you realize that you are capable of achieving the goals you want to achieve, then you start working towards that goal. And as you start to reach that goal, you get reassurance of that. Like, you see your successes, you see things happening. And so you kind of create a self-fulfilling prophecy. That means once you reach that goal, and then you're like, wow, this is what I wanted to be doing. And so maybe I am worth it. And so it feeds that, and one feeds the other, and they keep each other going. It's really important to have the confidence in yourself. And sometimes, it's always the fake it till you make it thing. There is some warrant to that. Sometimes you just have to do it, even if you lack it. And then hopefully your body will come, the reality will kick in and be like, oh, wow. Like, for example, people that go to gym, they might be like, well, I'm not in really good shape. This gym's intimidating, et cetera, et cetera. I'm super sore. My body can't handle it. But then when you start doing it, you might be miserable for a little bit. But once you start healing, you're not sore as long, you're getting stronger, you're getting more healthy. Then you're like, oh, wow, I am capable of this. I want to keep going. And so it pushes you down that path. Now, the flip side to having self-worth is that it lets you take some blows. Because let's be honest, this is a very brutal world we live in. People are very candid, and it smacks you on the butt quite a lot and quite often. So you have to be comfortable with failure, and having that confidence in yourself and knowing that failures are just minor setbacks, they're not the end all be all, is something that you have to come to terms with. I used to play cards competitively for a good portion of my life, and it was one of the battles that I constantly struggled with, because if there's anything playing cards taught me, it's how to lose. The reason being is, when you follow, like, for example, poker players, very successful poker players are still only in the top 50% of wins. Most successful poker players are somewhere between 57 to 62%. Which means they're still losing 40% of the time. That is a lot to lose. And when I was playing cards, it was the same thing. I would typically go deep enough in a tournament to figure out whether I was going to make the cut, to potentially make the final cut to the last top 8 people to play for cash prizes. But it would go down to the wire. And sometimes I would get there and I would be like, sweet, like maybe I am supposed to be here. And then other times I would fail, barely reaching it or failing miserably. And so it's tough for me to deal with that and be like, man, am I really as decent as I think I am? Like, I know I'm not great. I'm too much of a realist. And I realize that for even where I'm at, for every person that is below me, there's a person above me, and they both kind of commingle. So I know I'm not the worst at whatever I do, but I also know I'm nowhere near the best. And it's something that you have to deal with, but understanding that you still deserve the goals that you're achieving or striving for, and that you are doing good things with what you put your actions into and efforts into, then you are able to deal with those failures. For example, it's almost safe to say that every business that starts off, especially smaller privately owned businesses, lose money their first year. And so it is tough. It is tough to start your own business, put time and effort and money into something, expecting to make a living off of it, and then end up having it cost you money. But if you know you're on the right track, people are enjoying your product or your services, then you can deal with it being a setback, but keep striving forward and keep putting your best foot forward and keep that hunger, that drive to succeed, and potentially digging yourself out of that. It's tough. It is not easy. Let me go back to streaming. I've been streaming for probably, I think, 3 months now. I made affiliate, which is having 70 followers, which is the first step towards making money. And granted, I'm well within the realm that I'm not planning on this being a full-time job. I do not think that I have the time right now to devote and the personality and the product to become one of the top streamers, but I am seeking success. My follower base is slowly growing. People tune in to watch, whether they understand what I'm streaming or what I'm not, because sometimes I stream circus, sometimes I stream fire, I stream card games, I stream video games. And so and people have complimented me. I've taken that feedback, and so I'm building off of that. And it's those little things, which I'll talk about, segue into our final topic. It's those things that really help me push and keep striving in, like, hey, maybe I do have a shot at this. Like, I'm gaining followers when I'm offline. People are enjoying the stream. I'm building a community, and all the other streamers are recognizing me. So all those things, the YouTube channel is slowly growing. So even though I have only a set, my Cesar LeBear YouTube has over 300 followers or subscribers. The new one for my stream only has 13, but you have to start somewhere. And so you have to be able to take the blows and know that you're going to have those bad days. And those, you'll go to the gym and have a day where you just might get a minor injury, or you're not feeling it and your numbers aren't going to be as strong. But you have to understand that it is just one day that you're going to try to milk all week, and you have to keep pushing forward and deal with failure, dealing with people not wanting your product, deal with your product not selling the way you want, or potentially your show not being as good as you want it to be yet. But as long as you keep doing it, then you never truly fail. And thus it is what helps me continue to do project after project after project, because I know not all of them are going to succeed, but I feel confident in my ability to at least execute something. For example, the reality show, let me touch that. So I took a bold adventure and decided to make a reality show of LeBear. It was something that's never been done before as far as our industry goes, and I took it on as far as the production side of it on my own. I had 10 great entertainers, and Excel helped me with the judging and the actual filming, but all the editing was on my own. I was learning stuff as I went. And and this works great for my final topic, which is set a main goal and then smaller progressive goals. So for me, the main goal was to potentially sell this to a network and have them fund it again with significantly more money to create a full-blown production, like So You Think You Could Dance. But I was also okay with intermittent glows. I was exposing people to the reality of how we work and what efforts we make for our show to inoculate people so they're more comfortable coming to the club, and to promote all the guys that participate and get their name out there and their face out there. And all that happened minus the primary goal, which, hey, that's fine. So on one regard, you can consider it a failure. On another regard, you could consider it a success. But I was happy with what it did. And, it was a ton of time. I mean, you're talking about a show where most people have teams of people editing small segments of each show, versus I was editing the entire thing and in the blind with no degree in anything like this, and just teaching myself off of YouTube and trial and error. And it was really well accepted, and I was happy with the product. I don't think it was my absolute best work, but at the time it was, and I would have not shipped a product that I felt was subpar. And I know I'm my own worst critic, but it's a lot of work, and I had, still hit the gym, still train, still work LeBear while I was doing all this. And so it is just one of those things. The goals really help. Setting your main goal, what you want to achieve, is what's going to keep your eye on the prize, the light at the end of the tunnel, the motivation for doing something, the pinnacle of what you want to achieve. But sometimes these goals do not happen overnight, and thus we need to set smaller progressive goals along the way to show us that we are on the right path and encourage us. For example, if you want to lose weight and maintain a healthy body, let's say you're at 250 pounds and your goal is to be 180. Well, you can't do that overnight. And so you're going to have a lot of bad days where you want to cheat on your diet, or you don't want to hit the gym, etc., etc. But if your goal is then, let's say, 2 pounds every week, or 6 pounds every month, and you achieve those goals every month, so every 30 days you get a little bit of kick in the butt and a booster of like, yeah, I'm doing it, like, yeah, this is working. Maybe it's bench press or running a mile. I want to run a mile under 6 minutes, and you start and you're at 12 minutes. That's extremely discouraging. But the next month, when you're running your mile at 11 minutes and you shaved off 60 seconds off your time consistently, then that's something to feel good about. Like I said, with my Twitch, you don't start making serious funds off of Twitch, and serious, I mean just consistent. By no means it's anything worth writing home about, until you consistently have 70 people tuning into your channel every time you stream on average, right? I am so far away from that goal. Right now I'm averaging somewhere between 15 and 20 viewers, but I didn't worry about that, and I still don't. What I was worried about was just building my brand, building my name, and getting followers, people that want to come back and see me. So I did celebrate when I hit that 75 follower goal, and I celebrated when I hit 100, and now I'm creeping on 150. And it's those intermittent things that really help you get there. Or maybe I don't win a card tournament, but I topped 8'd. That's something reputable. Little things like that really keep your motivation and morale high to continue, and allow you that you're not constantly dealing with failure. Instead, you're like, hey, I'm good at this. Things are happening. Everything I put my mind to, I make stuff happen. I might not reach the top, but I make the climb. And that's what's going to really, really help you to consistently show motivation in everything you do, when you know that as long as you put forth the time and effort, blood, sweat, and tears, that it will pay off in some form or fashion for you. And it is those things that start to make being driven a lifestyle instead of an exercise or a small habit. All right, guys, that is going to do it. That is my 2 cents, maybe a whopping 7 cents, on why I am driven, why you see me attack so many things consistently and just throw down time and time again, and why other people say they get tired just knowing how productive I am. And believe it or not, I still have my days where I feel non-productive. A little more personal, actually, I'll attack this onto the worst event. Last week, I ended up getting a stomach bug. So in the middle of the night on Monday, I woke up and I was just miserable. I ended up sleeping all of Tuesday. Literally, I woke up twice to go to the bathroom, drink some water, and went right back to sleep because I had a splitting headache and my stomach was just on ends. And so the 1 day a week that I used to catch up on my errands, my laundry, my house cleaning, any projects, all that stuff just straight up disappeared into the oblivion. And so you can imagine Wednesday, despite feeling better, I was extremely irritated because I just lost a whole day of productivity. But it's something you have to deal with. Like, I get it. My body was sick. If I tried to be productive that day, I would have been miserable. And it is what it is. So it's things like that I'm human too. I do the best I can. But yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. A little something from this, a little snippet. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think? If you want to see or hear more topics like this or not. All right, let's move on to the worst and best events of the week, since I missed them last week, and I do apologize about that. So my worst event, it's pretty sombering actually. It was a Thursday night. We had about average showing of women, and it was, first off, the funny part of it, a woman continually came up to me. She came up to me on main stage, she came up to me on side stage, she came up to me on side stage again. And every time she came up to me, she was just reminding me, she was slightly inebriated by this point, that she had come here for her birthday a year ago and was absolutely captivated and blown away by me. I made it so special for her, and she wanted to celebrate again with me. And then she came up to me again and she said, last time she was a birthday 2 years ago. Then she saw me again and was, hey, birthday, and you would think like 3 or 1 or maybe just 1 year ago. Instead, she said 1.5 years ago. So then I really had no idea if she was trolling me or not. Like if she was purposely just doing a different, time frame every time, or if she was just that inebriated or didn't remember. But I thought it was humorous. But the reason that this became the worst event was the fact that even in her inebriated state, she had identified that I was jaded. She's like, your eyes look different. I'm like, it's the lighting here. I don't know. I could be tired. And she's like, no, you seem distant. I'm like, well, I'm definitely not distant. Like I'm in the moment for sure. Like I'm talking to you. You have my undivided attention. And she's like, yeah, you just seem jaded. And I was like, sweetie, honey, I've been doing this job for 8 years. Like, it's absolutely impossible not to become jaded at some point because of all the interactions. For those of you who have followed me along with this journey, with this podcast, excuse me, that I have had some really phenomenal experiences and some really not so great experiences, and a lot of those have repeated themselves. So it's just a defense mechanism our personalities do, which does not bother me. But I was a little disappointed at the fact that she felt like she could see it and see it on me, which was a disappointing. It kind of hurt a little bit because at the end of the day, I wanted to make sure she was having the best night she could, and I could see that kind of bothered her a little bit. So that was my worst event of the week. My best event of the week, though, was I have really good intuition. It's just a thing that I've built over the years, and it's just continuously gotten better and better. And so whenever someone pops into my head, I typically message them in some form or fashion just to let them know. And so I messaged a good friend of mine, and it was ironic because he's, hey, it's great to hear from you, et cetera, et cetera. We caught up a little bit, and he's like, so funny story. I typically wear my uniform when I am working, but today, out of all days, I decided to go off the beaten path and wear normal clothes to work. I was like, oh, cool, nice. He's like, well, here's the funny thing. And then he sent me a picture of him at the office, and he was wearing his Le Bear shirt. So I thought that was absolutely hilarious. We had a good laugh about it. And it was just one other thing that reaffirmed that my intuition is spot on. And it was nice to have a moment with a good friend of mine. We both smiled and laughed about it, and I thought it was great. So we are going to schedule getting together at some point whenever our schedules line up. So that was definitely the high point, or a high point, I should say, of my week. I thought it was awesome. Little interactions like that really kind of make make life spicy and interesting. All right, guys, that is going to do it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. A couple of things to close out the show. We have our Sexiest Man in Texas contest coming up July 19th. Make sure you ladies, gentlemen, get tickets for that, so you don't have to pay $20 at the door. If you are planning on bringing a party, I highly suggest reserving a table, as this is the biggest strip-off of the event of the year. It's going to be the pageant style, where gentlemen come out in suits, swimwear, and clubwear, and then perform their best shows. So definitely check it out. It is going to be one of the funnest nights, with guys from all out of town coming in. You can reach me on Facebook at Cesar Collazo. Instagram and Twitter is Cesar LeBear 7, as you guys know. And then once again, to plug twitch.tv/Jedi, JEDI_EJ, where I stream live. Come hang out, even if you don't know what I'm doing. Chat is active. It's kind of like interactive TV. That's one of the reasons why I enjoy it. And just kind of hang out and chit chat. I got a great community going in there. Chat is typically very active, not only with me, but with other people in chat. Very friendly. So come check it out. See if you might be interested in one of the many things I do. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it. Thank you so much again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Hope you all are having a fantastic day, night, morning, depending on whenever you're listening to this. And yeah, until next time, keep bringing the rain.
I am focused, I'm in my zone. You can binge watch like Game of Thrones. Reserve your judgments, don't throw no stones. Oohs and I scream as loud as you don't. Airplane mode on tablets and phones. Caesar's crowd pleasers is now on. Caesar, the crowd pleaser. If you need to pick me up, ladies, we gon' change your demeanor. Caesar, the crowd pleaser. We gon' do a little dance, we gon' make the naysayers believe us.